For decades, astronomers have searched the universe for signs of intelligent life. Most of the signals they detect can eventually be explained. But in the summer of 1977, a radio telescope recorded something no one could explain. Nearly half a century later, no one knows exactly what produced it. It became known simply as the WOW signal. It was the night of August 15, 1977. At Ohio State University, the Big Ear radio telescope was quietly scanning the sky as part of an ongoing search for signals from space. Unlike most telescopes, Big Ear operated continuously, recording its observations onto long computer printouts for astronomers to examine later. On August 18th, astronomer Jerry Ehman was examining one of those printouts when a single sequence of characters immediately caught his attention. 6EQUJ5. Surprised by what he saw, he circled the sequence in red ink and wrote a single word beside it. Wow! But what exactly had he found? The sequence 6EQUJ5 wasn't a message or a code. It was simply the way Big Ear's computer recorded the strength of the radio signal as it passed through the telescope's beam. Every 10 seconds, the computer measured the signal's intensity and assigned it a single character. As the signal drifted through the telescope's beam, the recorded values rose to a peak before gradually falling again. The letter U represented a signal roughly 30 times stronger than the background static of space. Together, the sequence formed a nearly perfect bell-shaped curve, exactly matching the 72 seconds it would take a distant source to pass through Big Ear's field of view as the Earth rotated. But what the printout revealed raised an even bigger question.
If you enjoy mysteries like this, consider subscribing.
What it revealed was that this wasn't an ordinary radio signal. It occupied an extremely narrow band of the radio spectrum. Unlike stars, galaxies, and other natural radio sources, which typically emit radio waves across a broad range of frequencies, it was confined to an unusually small band. That alone made it highly unusual. It also appeared remarkably close to the hydrogen line, a radio frequency naturally emitted by hydrogen, the most abundant element in the universe. In 1959, physicists Giuseppe Cocconi and Philip Morrison proposed that the hydrogen line would be one of the most logical frequencies for an intelligent civilization to transmit a signal, since any technologically advanced civilization studying the universe would eventually discover hydrogen and its unique radio emission. Its apparent origin lay in the direction of the constellation Sagittarius, near the center of the Milky Way. Because Big Ear used two separate feed horns, astronomers could narrow the source to one of two nearby positions in the sky, but they couldn't determine which one. Individually, none of these characteristics proved the signal was artificial. Together, they made it one of the most unusual radio signals ever detected. If it had truly come from a distant source, there was only one way to test that possibility: detect it again. In the days that followed, astronomers pointed Big Ear back toward the same region of the sky. Over the years, the search expanded to include the Very Large Array, the Arecibo Observatory, and several other radio telescopes. In total, more than 100 follow-up observations were carried out. But the signal never returned. The search also uncovered another mystery. Big Ear observed the sky using two separate feed horns. As the Earth rotated, the same point in the sky would pass through the second horn approximately 3 minutes after the first. If the source had remained active, astronomers expected it to appear again. It never did. That suggested the source was transient. It had either stopped transmitting before the second feed horn reached it, or whatever produced it had emitted only a single brief burst. Without another detection, astronomers had only a single observation to investigate. Astronomers began examining every possible explanation. One possibility was that the signal had been an artificial transmission. Its narrow bandwidth, its proximity to the hydrogen line, and its apparent origin from deep space matched several characteristics that researchers had long considered possible signs of an intelligent source. But without a second detection, the idea remained impossible to verify. If the signal didn't originate in deep space, the next obvious possibility was much closer to Earth. Astronomers investigated aircraft, satellites, terrestrial interference, and even military transmissions. None fit the evidence. Radio transmissions near the hydrogen line are internationally protected to minimize interference with astronomical observations. More importantly, none of these possibilities matched the telescope's beam pattern or explained why the signal appeared exactly as a distant celestial source would. In 2017, astronomer Antonio Paris proposed that hydrogen clouds surrounding passing comets had produced the signal. The idea attracted widespread attention, but subsequent studies showed that comet emissions are far too broad and diffuse to create the narrow, high-intensity burst recorded by Big Ear. Another possibility was interstellar scintillation, the radio equivalent of a star twinkling, where turbulent clouds of charged particles briefly amplify a distant radio source. Although theoretically possible, later observations failed to detect the underlying source this explanation required, making it an unlikely candidate. Each explanation accounted for part of the evidence. None accounted for all of it. Decades after the original detection, advances in technology allowed scientists to reopen the investigation from a completely different direction. Decades passed, but the mystery refused to disappear. In 2022, the Breakthrough Listen project conducted another search of the region where the WOW signal had originated. The observations targeted a sun-like star that astronomer Alberto Caballero had identified as a possible source if the signal had been an artificial transmission. No technosignatures were detected, and the star remains only a candidate, not evidence of an extraterrestrial origin. But advances in technology opened a new line of investigation. Instead of searching the sky again, researchers turned their attention back to the original evidence. In 2024, a research team led by Abel Mendez launched the Arecibo WOW project, using modern digital techniques to reanalyze archived observations. Their analysis suggested that the WOW signal may have been even more powerful than originally believed, with a peak intensity of approximately 250 Janskis, nearly 4 times higher than earlier estimates. One hypothesis proposed by the team was that a powerful burst of radiation from a magnetar could briefly stimulate a cold cloud of hydrogen, causing it to emit an intense, narrowband burst of radio waves. If such an event occurred, it could produce a signal remarkably similar to the one detected by Big Ear. They also identified similar, though much weaker, transient radio events in archived observations, suggesting that such phenomena may be possible. Even with modern technology and decades of additional research, no single explanation has been able to account for every characteristic of the WOW signal. After decades of investigation, astronomers are still working from a single observation. The original 6EQUJ5 printout remains one of the most important pieces of evidence in the case. In 1998, the Big Ear radio telescope was dismantled after the land was redeveloped, making it impossible to observe the sky again using the original instrument. Since then, no signal with the same characteristics has ever been detected. Science depends on evidence, and a single unexplained observation is not enough to reach a definitive conclusion. For just 72 seconds, a radio telescope recorded one of the most unusual signals ever detected from space. Was it an extraordinarily rare natural phenomenon, or the first sign that we weren't alone? What do you think?